Hey loves, welcome back to my channel. Thank you for tuning once again. If you are new here, welcome. If you're an old subscriber, thank you for tuning once again. Today I'm showing you how I made this drawstring ponytail using two bundles of hair, a drawstring mesh cap, a scissors, and a marker or chalk to draw the guidelines. Before you start drawing your guidelines, you make sure that the combs are facing the sideways, one on the right, the other on the left, not up and down. Make sure that they are facing the sideways. Then you draw your guidelines accordingly. So you pin the drawstring onto your canvas head, making sure that the combs are facing the opposite directions. Then you draw your guidelines. When drawing your guidelines, you draw it according to the hair bundles that you are using. Since we are using a sewing machine to sew this, you don't want the stitches to be close together. Otherwise, when you finish, you can't really pull the string along and make it very nice. So you make sure that the spaces are a little wide enough. After drawing your guidelines, then you move on to double your weft or triple your weft depending on the number of bundles you are using. I'm using two bundles, so I decided to double my weft. So you see me doubling the weft here. So when you are done doubling the weft, all you have to do is sew onto the mesh drawstring just like you are sewing a wig cap. If you want me to show you how I double wefted this very neatly, let me know in the comment section. So after double wefting, you want to make sure that you align with the lines to make sure that your bundles will be enough. If your bundles are small or you are using one bundle, just make sure that you align it onto the lines that you've drawn in the mesh cap to make sure that it will be enough for the drawstring ponytail that you are making. If it's enough, then you move on to the sewing machine and sew it. If you are doing hand stitching, you can sew the tracks close together, unlike the sewing machine where there should be a space in between each track. So with the drawstrings, we have three types. We have the small, medium, and the large. I'm using the large because I'm using the sewing machine and I need a lot of space. So if you are using your hand stitch, you can go for the medium size or also choose the large one. It all depends on what you want. So when you are sewing, you want to make sure that you do not sew on that drawstring in there, just as I'm showing you right there. Just make sure that you sew 1, 2, and 3. I go over, I just tilt it, then I go over. Just make sure that you do not sew on that drawstring in it, because if you sew on the drawstring and you are done, you cannot pull it out. So you just align your weft onto the lines that you've drawn, making sure that when you are sewing, you are not sewing on that drawstring in the mesh. So before you put on the sewing machine for easy sewing, you want to align your wefts onto the mesh drawstring, then you cut it so that when you are sewing, you sew very smoothly. And when you sew, make sure that you sew once. Just look at what I'm doing. You sew once, then you tilt or turn it over and sew over it again. I prefer sewing it 3 or 4 times. See, just turn it over, then you go back again. Sometimes doing the back stitch on the drawstring mesh is quite difficult, and sometimes the machine will be acting up. So to prevent that, you just sew, then turn it over again, then sew again. So you just turn it, then you sew again. It's quite easy. You just have to look at it and you get the whole process. Take a look into the mirror, following your heart, put the silence to the fear, and you deserve it. You deserve it. Rainy season's gonna go. Now your seeds can grow. Imagine that. You deserve it. You deserve it now. Hey. Pick up the phone, little darling, I got a bit to say. I'm speaking from the heart, I pray it doesn't ricochet. I know you got his up, distance makes it hard enough. I hope that I can ask for you to listen, man, this part is tough. I sent a message and maybe you didn't get it yet. When you have a second, you should check it, swear you won't regret it. I'm stepping out of a meeting, a big amount's where it's leading. I'll make you proud in proceedings, we'll hit the town in the evening, darling. And then it's time for us to celebrate. Pop some vino, we know we celebrate. Hello, mate, enjoy the ride and spend for something real nice. Cause every dream I've ever had, you helped me realize. No matter how much of a stretch I guess it feels like, no matter how left field, you make it feel right. You believed it could be real beyond the surface. In your eyes I saw that I was worth it. Perfect. Take a look into the mirror, following your heart, put the silence to the fear, and you deserve it. You deserve it. Rainy season's gonna go.
Sharing everything I feel for you, I gotta give the praise in Spanish. Mariposa, you and I couldn't be any closer. You make me breathe like a bean, a heavy smoker. When we get married, we will be ready for what the world will bring. We'll burn him if they had buddied up.
You deserve it. You deserve it. Rainy season's gonna go. Now your seeds can grow. Imagine that. You deserve it. You deserve it now. Hey.
Pick up the phone, little darling, I got a bit to say. I'm speaking from the heart, I pray it doesn't ricochet. I know you got his up, distance makes it hard enough. I hope that I can ask for you to listen, man, this part is tough. I sent a message and maybe you didn't get it yet. When you have a second, you should check it, swear you won't regret it. I'm stepping out of a meeting, a big amount's where it's leading. I'll make you proud in proceedings, we'll hit the town in the evening, darling. And then it's time for us to celebrate. Pop some vino, we know it's celebrate.
So this is how it's going to look like after sewing on all the guidelines that you drew. This is how it's going to look like. So we are left with the last track. You have to cover all these tracks. So we are going to sew the last track to cover all the tracks. Now we are going to sew along the tracks that we've done. So it's going to go in round motion, just like I'm showing you. We are going to sew around all the tracks, but make sure that when you are sewing, you do not sew on the drawstring, because if you sew on the drawstring and you are done, you cannot pull it. So make sure that you do not sew on the drawstring. And sewing, it should go around like how I'm showing you. It should go around but not touching the drawstring in it. The drawstring is the string in the mesh that you are sewing on, the string in it. So you want to make sure that you avoid that string. It is very necessary to avoid it, because if you do not avoid that string, when you are done, you cannot pull it. And if you are not able to pull it, then it means that you did a cost 90 job and you have to do it all over again. So as you are sewing, you want to take your time, because this stage is the last stage and it must be done accordingly. You have to take your time at this stage. You don't want to rush, because if you rush, everything that you've done will be a cost 90 job. So you need to really take your time at this stage and just sew along it. Make sure that you are covering all the wefts, so that when you are done, you won't be having any weft showing around it. The last track is just to cover everything to make it very neat. So it's just like the other ones, you have to sew it twice, 3 times or 4 times, depending on how you want it, but I prefer to sew it 3 times. You just sew around it, go round like you are just sewing a wig. You just go around, making sure that you are not sewing over the string in it. That is the string that you are going to pull when you are done. So you want to make sure that you do not sew that string. It is very important. That's why I keep stressing on the string. You don't sew on that string. So you take your time. When you do one stitch, then you turn it over, then you go over it again. Since you are not doing the back stitch to secure the stitches, all you have to do is sew once around it, then turn it over again, then you sew it 3 times to secure the stitches, so that it will not be coming off early. Thanks for tuning in. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel, because I'll be posting more content like this. Thank you. And this is the final look. That is how everything looks like when we are done. You see, it is very neatly stitched. Everything is looking so neat, and we sewed it according to the lines that we drew. So all you have to do from this stage is to go on and style it like you style your regular wig. You apply your heat protectant, you straighten it or you curl it, or however you want to style it, because you are done with our drawstring ponytail. Try this and let me know in the comment section if you were able to do it well or you had challenges, and feel free to contact me on Instagram to address any challenge that you had. Thank you for tuning in once again. Don't forget to like and subscribe to my channel. Check out my Instagram page for a selection of braided wigs, regular wigs, and ponytails just like the one in this video. You can also purchase a unit from my website. If you have any questions or suggestions, feel free to text me on Instagram. I've provided links to my personal handle and business page in the description box. Thanks for stopping by and see you next time.
Sitting on my bed, flashing, smiling, cast a wink. Losing track of time, feeling like it's been some weeks. Matter of fact, it's been 3 days since we relayed our thoughts. Heartstrings freeway as I replay our talks.